Hey everyone, and welcome to the post-mortem for my latest game jam project, Burning Memories. My name is Daltix, and I'm the developer. This was a 10-day jam with the theme, Everything is a Resource. And my first idea was probably the most literal interpretation you could imagine, but it was also kinda boring. So I threw it out and made what I made instead, a short narrative simulator about regret and facing the impossible choice of burning your last connection to your grandfather. This video is a story about how that pivot came to happen, which tools I used to develop the game, and the personal challenges I faced along the way.
Oh no, the fire is dying already. I need to find something else to burn.
So, when I first heard the theme, my mind went straight to survival. I'm usually more of a gameplay focused guy, and usually story goes second for me. My mind went straight to survival. I pictured this isolated wooden house. Your only resource would be the house itself, like the furniture, and the plan was simple. You would break it apart and burn the pieces to stay warm. If you wouldn't manage to make it in time, you would freeze. But I wanted to make something different this time. And I mean, it fits the theme, right? But the problem was when I actually prototyped it, it wasn't fun. There was no real challenge, no interesting decision to make. Once you burned all the furniture, the game was just over. So instead of trying to make this flawed idea work, I tried something else. And that's when I did the most important thing you can do in a game jam. I talk to people. I have a girlfriend that is very supportive, with whom I can iterate my ideas with. I have a couple of friends on Discord where I just post small videos and ask for feedback, or I create a small playable web build and I just send it to them, and then I talk with them and iterate the idea. If it doesn't play well, if it isn't fun, there's no reason to keep it, especially in a jam where the time is limited. So, after I talked with my friends, we got to the idea. What if the resource wasn't only physical, but a vessel for a memory? A story from the grandfather you lost touch with. And that's how it kinda shifted from a gameplay-focused game over to a narrative game. Together with that, the idea became about being trapped in this house, surrounded with all the objects that trigger memories. And you, the character, just never had the time. You always delayed calling him back for tomorrow. That never came. And now you are faced with the decision to burn through the very objects that hold the stories that you will now never get to hear. When I read Griffin's Tales and couldn't stop talking about it, Grandpa carved this figurine for me as a Christmas gift. I was so happy back then as a child, when everything felt so much easier. Yeah, this was a huge step for me, because the only other game I've made with any story was Death Toll, and it's years ago. It was for the Nokia Game Jam, and that was still pretty light on narrative. The question was, how do you build a story-driven game where things have to happen in a very specific order? I figured I would use Unity events, and in this kind of gameplay, I cannot recommend it enough actually. Instead of writing dozens of one-off scripts, you can just create a generic interaction system and chain events together right in the inspector. And that really saved me a lot of time. For the game's atmosphere, I knew I wanted it to feel very cold, and I wrote a couple of shaders. So I created this ground fog. There are multiple layers stacked of it to really show how it's getting colder and colder. The light rays that are coming through the windows are a custom shader as well as an object from an asset pack. And I think they really add a lot to the mood, because lighting from the windows is actually very subtle, but these kind of light rays give depth to the room. Of course, a game like this is nothing without good assets. All the models that you see are from different packs from the Unity Asset Store. I will put them all in the description below, in case you want to check them out for yourself. For the sound design, which was a real highlight of this project for me, first and foremost, the music.
Repeating the advisory for the Northern Territories, a state of emergency has been declared. The blizzard, now entering its third day, has exceeded all projections. Power outages are widespread. All residents are urged to shelter in place and conserve resources. Rescue crews are overwhelmed, trying to reach those trapped.
To give a huge shout out to Tony E. Ryan, an amazing artist who I met on the Goodware Jam Discord. He volunteered to compose all the music for the game, and he absolutely nailed it. The score he delivered perfectly captured the melancholic atmosphere vibe I was going for. A massive thank you to him. You should really check out his YouTube channel. Link is in the description below. For the other sounds, like footsteps and object interactions, I use Soundly. It's an amazing free tool where you can search a massive library, drag a selection and just pull it right into your project. But the biggest challenge for me personally was the voice acting. I'm usually pretty shy, but I wanted to push myself. This whole jam was about learning, so I decided to voice the main character myself. And I'm going to be honest, it was tough. Listening back, I'm not entirely satisfied. I can hear that I'm not quite hitting the emotional depth that I had in my head. I also noticed that I would procrastinate on any task that involved recording my own voice. It's clear that this is a skill I'm not comfortable with yet. But it works. It gets the story across, and for a first real attempt, I'll take that as a win. Interestingly, the other voices you hear on the radio were done with AI. I used 11 Labs version 3, and you can just prompt the emotion that you want the narrator to have.
It's really incredible how voice AI has progressed over the year.
It generates a performance, literally. I then took those lines into CapCut to add some radio static and sound effects.
Can anyone hear me? Please respond. This is the North Guard. If you can hear me, answer.
So, looking back, what would I improve? Well, the writing's definitely one area. The story concept is good enough, but I think the delivery, the visual storytelling and the pacing could be much better. And of course the voice acting, but that's a journey in itself. All in all though, I'm really happy with how this turned out. I pivoted from a failing idea to something with real emotional weight. The price of my survival is his legacy. I built my first real narrative game. I pushed myself out of my comfort zone and I finished the project. And that's a successful game jam in my book. If you want to experience the story for yourself, the game is available for free on itch.io. The link is in the description below, and let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching.